9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
The electricity here in Columbia, well, has been buzzing loudly all weekend.
Passion of the crowd in Williams-Brice Stadium is second to none.
And the rave breaks out in Columbia.
It is good!
Gamecock fans, welcome home.
See how it goes, but we'll be ready to go.
It's time to root.
Let's go, Carolina!
It's gone! Touchdown! What a hit! He baked it in! Can you believe it? Gamecocks have won this game!
Here are your hosts, J.C. Sherbert.
Oh, watch him celebrate now!
Phil Molinex.
My wife doesn't like hanging around losers.
And Jamie Bradford.
I'm going to tell him, you look like you joined Duck Dynasty.
All right, greetings and good morning. Welcome aboard and welcome home inside the Gamecocks, the show live from the Signorama Studios, the preferred sign partner of Gamecock Athletics. We'll all be in Williams-Brice Stadium soon, and you'll see their work everywhere as you drive by. You already do, and they, of course, have work all over campus. That's why they're the preferred sign partners of the Gamecocks. So if you own a company or a business, or you just want to put a sign in your yard that says 31 to 30 because your neighbor pulls for that team in the upstate, pretty much anything in between, it's signorama.com, and you can go find Matt Vaughn's group in West Columbia, and they'll do your work from anywhere in the state of South Carolina. They're the best of the best. That's why South Carolina has chosen them, and that is why we are partners with them as well. Built by the Barn Dough Co., as low as $160 per square foot, to build your dream home in the Carolinas, in Georgia, or in Tennessee. TheBarnDominiumCo.com. They are building something special. That's for sure. So are we. J.C. Sherbert, Phil Molinex, myself, JB, here until 1 today. We'll be joined in an hour by the great Brad Crawford with 24/7 Sports. His preseason predictions are out. He's got South Carolina finishing at 7-5. We'll ask him why, and a lot more about that as well. We also have a new segment we'll start doing on Wednesdays called Agree or Disagree. And I'll ask JC and Phil each I'll give each of you 3 statements, and you have to agree or disagree with the statement. And knowing JC, he'll tell us why. And then we'll run out of time and have to be short on the next segment. But that's how it works around here, and we're excited about that. The college football playoff format could be changing. Ross Dellinger has a column out on that. We'll get into some of that a little bit later as well. And then, guys, I think most notable to our audience was really what Spencer Rattler had to say yesterday. He was – and come on. We're not dumb. You know, he's not going to grab the microphone and say, well, you know, this guy, he kind of sucks. We don't run the ball worth a damn. Our offensive line's average at best. Loggins is – you know, he's okay, but I mean, there's nothing to write home about. No, I know that he's not going to do that, but he did say some pretty encouraging things, and it's a little bit different coming from him and how he said it yesterday, and so I think that should give us a little bit of an idea of where things stand. He did say he sure does like this offense a lot more than the one he was in last year, and that I think is the comment that had some people rolling around last night. Phil and JC, good morning.
Good morning, sir. Good morning. Yeah. He seems a bit more optimistic about the way the offense is running here in this preseason than years past. I'll put it that way.
What do you think, JC? Yeah, I agree.
I mean, it would have been ridiculously awful had they stuck with what they were doing. So I think that I think that anything would have been an improvement. But the more I hear about it, the more I think Dowell Loggins is going to be, you know, there's still people out there that are like, well, you know, I mean, there's one guy on the Big Spur that blames recruiting failures for hiring Dowell Loggins still. And these aren't even guys that, you know, play his position he coaches. And I think we've all seen so far he can recruit pretty well, you know.
Yeah.
So I think all that talk will probably be put to rest by the middle of the season. I'll say this though: there's always the chance that you don't produce. This is a tough league with great defenses, but I would be very surprised if we sit here and go, the play calling sucked, or what are they doing on offense after a game that they don't execute and maybe only put 7 on the board or whatever. So I think that last year it was obvious to everybody that was not just I don't know, some of these guys that really get into the X's and O's part of it, that watch a lot of tape and as a hobby and things like that, they tended to defend him a little more. And I think it's probably because, as we said, the play designs were probably good. The concepts were probably quite good. It was just the way he went about it. I don't think he put 63 points on Tennessee with bad play designs, right? But what they did was they scaled it back, which is what you have to do in college. Alabama, I know for a fact, Bill O'Brien said he ran it about like 20% of how he ran the Texans offensively at Alabama. And they had one of the best offenses best offenses in the country the last couple of years. So I think that this will be a pleasant surprise. I understand because I was on the bandwagon too about NFL background guys. But, the more you dig into like the facts about Dowell Loggins, it's not a guy like Steve Wilkes at Missouri a couple of years ago who basically didn't have a job until he goes and Eli Drinkwitz calls him up and he wants to go coordinate defense for a year at Missouri, and that's a disaster. Now he's back in the NFL where he belongs. Mm-hmm. So, Dowell Loggins was up there for 20 years. He could have stayed. He could have easily gotten another job because they recycle coaches and stuff up there. But he decided to go pursue college. And when you come back to college and you don't just walk in the door and say, "Hey, I'm a coordinator. I know guac is extra," and you go decide you're going to be an analyst and learn it from the ground up from a guy like Mike Yurcich at Penn State, and then the job at his alma mater comes up. He's coaching tight ends. Right. Kendall Browse, as good as I think Kendall is, probably has half the experience in football Dowell does. So you're working for a guy that hadn't been in the game as long or the sport as long, and you're learning, sponging, and then you combine that with his experience in the NFL and being in the arena before, being on the biggest stage of the sport. Trust me, man, I've dealt with Bears fans. Being the OC up there is the worst job in football. Next to maybe being Mike Leach's running backs coach when Leach was Leach was with us, but it's just or Steve Spurrier's defensive coordinator, or Will Muschamp's offensive coordinator, if you will. But no, it's a bad job, and to have gone through that and gone through those bad years with the Dolphins and work for the Titans. Those are all passionate fan bases up there. So the pressure's not going to get to him. You're not going to see him do some of the juvenile things that maybe happened in the past where, oh my God, a player's getting too much credit. They still hate me. And I'm not questioning anybody's motivation. I'm just saying that I think you're going to see a guy that's a pro that is taking his first swing at college, that's paid his dues. Mm-hmm. And is going to apply all that knowledge to this offense this year. And there's a reason why Spencer likes it. I mean, there's a reason why everybody likes it. Jamie, you and I talked to players at the event for Carolina Rise in April. They all liked it, right? Mm-hmm. It's a breath of fresh air. And that's regardless of the results. So we'll see.
Yeah, look, I agree, man. I mean, it's, I go back to a comment that Coach Loggins made a couple of weeks ago at the Birdies with Beamer event when he said, and I'm paraphrasing a little bit here, but I've almost got every word down. My job is to get him going and then let him go. And he was talking about Spencer Rattler. Hey, look, I'm as the offensive coordinator around here, I'm going to put you in a spot to go out there and find your groove and to be successful. And then from there, when you start playing and you're ready to let it rip, I'm going to let you let it rip. And he was referencing as well, the Tennessee game last year where he was watching it on TV. And, Coach Logan said, my God, this guy can't miss. He's on fire. I mean, he's just everything he's doing. And clearly, we've begun to understand now over the last few months as to why that was. They kind of changed the playbook a little bit and quote unquote dumbed it down, or at least simplified it. Let's use that word, simplified it, to where Spencer Rattler could do the things that he was best at. And we saw he was the best quarterback in the country that night when they beat Tennessee. And he was one of the best quarterbacks in the country over the last 3 games of the season when you combine all the numbers and really take a look at it, even with some of the crazy interceptions that happened in the Clemson game. And I think he threw one against Notre Dame, but regardless, he was still the guy that everybody around here was hoping to see. And so equating that back to, again, we can't see this right now because it's August. They're just practicing, but going off of what Dow Logan said his mission was for Spencer Rattler, and then now hearing Spencer Rattler yesterday, say things like, this is the best camp I've ever been a part of. We have way more explosive plays than last year for sure. It's a complete turnaround. We've been playing fast. I like this better, all these type of things. You at least get the feeling that these two guys together could be pretty special. And if they could be pretty special, equating that to the rest of the world, the fans, on the outside looking in, I go back to something we've said time and time and time again around here, at least over the last few months. When you have an elite quarterback, you can beat anybody. I mean, the rest of your team can't suck. And obviously, and I understand that. But if you don't suck and you are average or above average and you have an elite quarterback, it can happen any Saturday. And we've heard that, Phil, how many times over and over and over throughout the years with all these other programs. Let's just stay in the SEC for the sake of the conversation here. But every SEC program out there, not named Alabama and Georgia, whom every year seemingly have a quarterback that nobody can get enough of, and I agree with them. They've been really good. Hendon Hooker, everybody who plays for Mike Leach, KJ Jefferson. These are the guys now. Anthony Richardson back at Florida, even though none of us thought he was really that good. My point was this: Will Levis was a great example of this. When you have a quarterback that people feel like is an elite quarterback, or at least in a system that they can operate in as an elite quarterback, those are the games that everybody starts talking about, where you go, these guys could beat these guys because they have a really good quarterback. And now, Spencer Rattler has kind of re-entered that phase of his career. He was already in it. When he played at Oklahoma, when he was a starting quarterback, nobody picked them to lose every week, right? Now they've kind of regained that. And they have to go out and prove it. You got to beat North Carolina coming up in a couple weekends. And then after that, you're going to have to beat somebody again you're not supposed to beat. But you have to almost reprove it. He did prove it last year against Tennessee. Pretty much proved it again against Clemson. And you just kind of start adding it all together, guys. And it feels like they could be on the verge of something special if they can stay healthy and it all clicks right.
Yeah, I mean, you got to think one of the more recent examples of insert quality quarterback play into a program with the right offensive scheme is, LSU and Joe Burrow. I mean, I'm not saying Carolina's on its way to win a national championship, but it's the perfect example of that, that combination where if you've got an elite quarterback, you have a competent offensive coordinator, even with, not necessarily the best running back in the league, or, you've got some weapons on the perimeter, but it wasn't like those guys were vying for Heisman's themselves. Yeah. Then you've got exactly what it is that you need to compete in what is the toughest league in the nation.
I'll say this. You don't want to get too caught up in the 2019 LSU comparisons, and I would be totally stunned simply because that LSU team had a really veteran offensive line.
Sure.
In fairness, before that season, they were kind of questioning it. Those guys just sort of came together, but those guys, there are a lot of pros up there, right?
Well,
I don't know how many pros Carolina has, but it's similar here because Carolina's basically running schematically. It's the same. Like if you just looked at it on paper, you probably couldn't tell that much difference between what Sad had and what Loggins has. There's going to be some wrinkles here and there based on the air raid and his time with Kendall Browse and stuff like that, more quarterback runs, stuff like that. And LSU, if you remember that year before, they had to replace what's-his-face, overly complicated guy that was at Pitt, with Ensminger, and then they were kind of up and down, and Burrow was up and down. I mean, Burrow had I remember talking to somebody, Burrow had worse stats than Jake Bentley in 2018.
Mm-hmm.
Jake was, statistically much better. He led them back to a victory. Things like it wasn't that he didn't do anything. And then the next year, something just clicked because he had more weapons, and Joe Brady comes in. Joe Brady didn't call the plays. It was Ensminger, but Joe Brady's sitting there spicing up the pass game, and so the spicing up of it and all that good stuff. I think that's kind of what Loggins brings to the table as one guy, and Carolina's sort of doing that. So they've made a not identical, but a similar move with a similar type of transfer quarterback, one that had his moments a year before, but nobody would ever think going into this year he would be, Heisman hands down. So,
yeah,
I'm not trying to get everybody excited. I'm just saying that we've kind of seen this setup before at different places, and it's worked. So, how well does it work this year? We'll see.
Yeah, well, this is that time of year that you should be excited. Why not? You've been waiting 8 months. Get excited and dream big. I mean, I think that there's nothing wrong with that. We all have tough enough lives. I want to make sure that I help Phil clarify here, and I think you just did the same thing too, because I don't think Phil is comparing what we're going to see at all to 2019 LSU. I hope at the end of the season we can compare it. That would mean really good stuff for South Carolina football. Yeah. But I think what you're getting at, Phil, and I understand exactly what you're saying here, and I think it's spot on, much like what JC just said, is you have a similar setup where it's you are coming into the year where you feel like the magic potion is there for good things to happen if it all can go well. And I think that's very fair. It's a recent example. I mean, okay, the Joe Burrow. Let me ask both of you this, and I'll start with you, Phil. Did you, in August of 2019, let alone the Heisman, was Joe Burrow on your radar as one of the best quarterbacks in the country?
No, I mean, I don't think you'd have put him top 10. I think it
wasn't on mine.
No, I mean, you've got a similar, and there again, another similarity between what you had there in 19 and what, South Carolina has here in 23. It's just, and that's why I qualified it as saying, I'm not, saying South Carolina is going to vie for a national championship this year or anything. And anytime you make comparisons like this, you have to temper your expectations, because we have yet to see a single play on a real football field. But, the mix is there.
It is.
Yeah.
I agree with these guys in the chat box too. I'm not going to say I'm not worried about the offensive line at all. I have concerns about how quickly it can come together. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Obviously, sooner or later, the sooner the better. But I like them, and I'll tell you what, JC. I mean, look, man, you and I met this kid. I said it then, and I've said it a lot. And it's not about me. I'm just saying I'm not shying away from anything that I've believed from the first moment that I met him. I think Sidney Fugar has a chance to be pretty freaking good at South Carolina. And per your reporting the other day, right now he might have the leg up on the right tackle position. If he is, that is what's going to make Ja'Kai Moore seems like a guy who's only going to get better. You mentioned the mean streak in him before, JC. guys who have mean streaks get better with contact, right?
Mhm.
And if you have a left tackle mentality and you've got something inside of you that says I'm gonna kick your rear end out here today, you will only get better as long as you stay healthy. The interior guys seem like they mesh pretty well, and Nick Gargiulo is beginning to stand out day by day. If Sidney Fugar comes along and turns into something totally out of the blue, they find this kid from friggin' Western Illinois, and he comes to South Carolina, and all of a sudden is a starting right tackle and becomes a staple out there at 6'5", 487,000 pounds, it appears. You have the potion to have a good offensive line, and even with the youth and too deep, those guys get to grow into their roles, not get thrown into their roles.
Agreed. And I think staying healthy is going to be important too. And Fugar, first of all, shout out to the Western Illinois Leathernecks. That's the alma mater of one Stephen Jason Sherbert.
All right.
My number two brother, the one that's a pilot. What's up, dude? He graduated from Western Illinois. I don't know what it is about Illinois women and my family, but his first wife was from Illinois, so that's how he ended up there. My second was from what I don't know what it is. Anyway, I wasn't with you on that though, JB. I'll be honest. I mean, it's not that I thought Sidney would be bad. I just kept thinking, well, he's got 3 years here,
Sure.
And he just, to me, it didn't. Meeting him, I was like, well, this guy's maybe doing a little bit of adjustment. I didn't know how quickly that would come. Obviously, they got him for a reason. But I kept thinking, he's not your normal grad transfer type guy where he's got 1 year and you need him to come in and start. Well, maybe he had a big summer. He is a hard worker. So I think all that, I've always liked Ja'Kai Moore. Trey Jones is one of the most athletic offensive linemen in the country. Rashawn Lee is a veteran they really like. I mean,
Trey Jones, remember guys just a couple of years ago, he was used in a fullback role. Now he's going to be your starting right guard.
That may have been the best thing Marcus Satterfield ever did.
Amazing.
And then he went away from it. But, so we'll see it. But, and Clint, you got to wipe the slate clean at some point. The OC is different. So I don't think anything anybody says about what happened last year is even valid. I mean, maybe they don't even have a few games this year that they're good. Maybe they suck the whole year. I don't know. But I think, it's a completely new day. The other thing about the offensive line I find interesting, and this shows you to tie it into class of 2024 recruiting a little bit. This shows you how rare elite offensive tackles and really linemen in general are that come out of this state. I think in this state we have a slew of underrated guys. TJ Johnson comes to mind, Jordan McFadden, Nick Clemson comes to mind. The Brandon Shells and Alex Barons of the world don't come along very often. And South Carolina's got both of them committed for next year. Here's South Carolina starting offensive line by state. Left tackle, Virginia. Left guard, New York. Center, Virginia. Right guard, South Carolina. Right tackle, Maryland.
Yeah.
So 4 of your 5 starters are from up the eastern seaboard, north of North Carolina. And that makes sense because we always think we have all the best football players in the South. We don't on the offensive line. And you can't find a bunch of good ones in Florida. You can't find the state. Georgia and Texas and Alabama sometimes have guys. Mississippi will have a guy every now and then. But it's hard. I mean, because all the great athletes up front, the big guys play defense in the South. And so, I thought that was kind of interesting. And I looked at the whole offense in general. And a lot of geographic diversity on offense. Defensively, I think 7 of the 11 starters are from right here in good old South Kakalaki. So everybody
people still use that term. I thought that phased out 20 years ago. Am I wrong?
South Kakalaki.
Yeah.
I don't know. Some Auburn fan sent me a hateful PM today about Jalewis Solomon and said South Kakalaki. Should I not say that? I won't say it anymore. I'm sorry. You ain't offended about
Did he spell any of it correctly? He's an Auburn guy. You never know with those guys.
He got it out of his coloring book. Wrote it in crayon.
That's right. It's all in crayon.
He said I acted butthurt on the Big Spur about Solomon. I remember the day he committed. I didn't say anything. I think I posted the link to Carolina Rise to join. That was it. That's all I said. It wasn't like I was like, "Ah, damn Auburn, man." I mean, if there is a program out there that I always speak, I always speak. You guys know I speak annoyingly high of Auburn. I love Auburn. Anyway, that guy's an idiot. But anyway, so that's the deal there. But so I think it's interesting that we talk about this program and when this program, and Clemson too, for that matter, when both programs have been up, like at the top of where they have ever been, they've always had great defenses.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's because of the defensive talent in the state. It's cattywampus to where there's more defensive guys than offensive guys for whatever reason.
Well, it's getting closer, and we're going to talk plenty more about it here throughout the program. Coming up at noon, it's our friend, everybody's friend, the great Brad Crawford from North Kakalaki. Of course,
North Cack.
National writer for 24/7 Sports. Yeah, I'm not a big Kakalaki guy. All right,
I won't say it again.
Well, you do you, man. I mean, you could get away with that in Charlotte, but down here you're roaming around 5 Points. You never know, might punch you in the mouth. So you should be careful.
Yeah, I don't want to get punched in the mouth.
Or I said Charlotte, Chicago, the old jacket. You know what I'm saying. We do need to step aside for a timeout. Speaking of golf, we're teed up by TravelingCountryClub.com. TravelingCountryClub.com is the coolest club in the Carolinas. Why not be cool when it's been roasting hot outside? Although I walked out to take my little monkeys to the zoo this morning. Those would be my twin 4-year-old daughters. And I didn't walk into a hair dryer. It was I don't know what happened, but something broke overnight. Thank the good Lord Pete for that. So maybe we're trending in the right direction around here, but stay cool while it's warm, and certainly in the fall. We know you want to play some mountain golf, and even along the coast when it's just beautiful to get out there and tee it up. There's nothing like this out there. Nothing. If you have a set of golf clubs, you should be a member to this. Period. Doesn't matter how well you play. TravelingCountryClub.com. Gamecock owned and operated. It's a huge club. There's, I don't even know how many members now, but I know it's over 1,000, which is awesome. We know we've been a part of that growth, and we're really, really appreciative of that. TravelingCountryClub.com. When we return, a brand new segment, Agree or Disagree. 3 questions apiece, but I also tricked you. I've got a bonus question for both of you. And we'll see what you've got to say right here on Inside the Gamecocks, the show, part of the Chief Sports Network. Welcome home. That's what the Gamecocks say, and so does the Barn Dough Company, where they can build your dream home starting as low as $160 per square foot. If you live in the Carolinas, Georgia, or Tennessee, their turnkey process takes just 4 to 6 months on average and can be custom designed by size and details. Make your dream a reality. Visit thebarndominiumco.com. That's thebarndominiumco.com. The Barn Dough Company, Gamecock, owned and operated.
Welcome to TravelingCountryClub.com, your modern golf club experience. Hey folks, this is Michael Manus, former Gamecock golfer, inviting you to play more golf with a membership to TravelingCountryClub.com. With over 40 courses across the Carolinas, our membership provides you with an affordable way to enjoy a club-like golf experience. From the mountains to the coast, we offer golf courses that will challenge all types of golfers, no matter your handicap level or level of play. Plus, we offer unique membership benefits not seen anywhere else as part of Traveling Country Club. Tee it up with Traveling Country Club, TravelingCountryClub.com, TravelingCountryClub.com, proud partners of Inside the Gamecocks, the show.
Hey everybody, this is Mo Copper from Carolina Football. The show is painted garden and black every day by a couple of painters. Go to letmepaintsomething.com to check them out. Go Cox.
10% off for military repeat customers or mention the show. Interior, exterior painting, fencing, cabinet staining, concrete painting, popcorn ceiling removal, and more. 803-522-6832. LetMePaintSomething.com. Pretty view there. Welcome back. 11:31 inside the Gamecocks, the show. Hey, guys, it's National Tell a Joke Day. Do either one of you have a joke or no? I know I sprung it on you. It has nothing to do with agree or disagree, but do you have a good joke?
No.
Why don't eggs tell very many jokes to each other?
I'm a long-form comedian, so we don't have 30 minutes.
Okay.
I got funny stories.
I don't know, Phil. What is it?
They keep cracking each other up.
Not bad.
Yes.
All right. I got one, and then we'll move on. A ham sandwich walks into a bar and orders a beer. What did the bartender say to him?
No idea.
Sorry, we don't serve food here.
I'm gonna have to use that.
Oh man! Also, by the way, I just retweeted this. I cannot believe this is 15 years ago today. But 15 years ago today, I'll never forget this moment. This is we often, if you ever, speaking of bars, if you're ever sitting in a bar or sitting around with your buddies and you just yapping around about sports, you always think back. Remember, in our lives, we've had certain can't miss moments in sports, and I'm not talking about just us. I'm talking about collectively. Let's call it the entire country. When I was growing up, you never missed Mike Tyson box, right? I mean, there are just when Tiger Woods was in it on Sunday, it didn't matter whether you watch golf or not. You watch Tiger Woods. This one always gets forgotten about, but anytime I ever bring it up, people are like, "Oh God, I remember every minute of it." And I remember this day 15 years ago because me and one of my roommates, Nick Godwin, who pitched for the Gamecocks, were in our living room in Columbia, literally about to push the TV over. We were so excited. It's the day that Michael Phelps won his 7th of 8 gold medals by 1/100th of a second. That Olympics, I mean, Phelps was can't miss for how many Olympics? 4? But that Olympics, when he won all 8, I'll never forget every time he swam. Like, and I'm not even like a big swimming guy. I love watching it. Like, it's pretty neat to watch. Those guys, they're athletes. It's unbelievable. That was a can't miss moment in sports. So hats off to 15 years ago, Michael Phelps, for doing something that'll probably never get done again. 8 gold medals in one Olympics is ridiculous.
It's hard to believe that was that long ago.
Yeah. 15 years, guys. You're getting old quick. Somebody asked me earlier, by the way, too, do I still say Chucktown? I've never said Chucktown because I'm born and raised here, and I think it sounds ridiculous, but you do you. All right. You ready? Here we go. Agree or disagree? We'll start with the one and the only Mad Dog Mullinex, who hails from the great upstate of South Carolina. All right, Phil. Last year, South Carolina allowed 198 rushing yards per game. They will improve that number by 30 or more this year.
Agree.
You agree?
I agree.
So you think
you got more experience. You lost a big guy in the middle and Zach Pickens for sure, but I think the guys that you have projected as the starters on the interior of the defensive line are another year experienced with another year experience in the middle of the defensive linebacker, which is where you're going to need it the most, I think. And I'd say, yeah, you can get that number to under 170.
Mm-hmm. But you got to go. It's got to be at 168, Phil, or you're wrong. I think Travian Robertson will be a big part of that as well.
I mean, that's what I'm sitting here thinking. I'm like, you got a real nasty D line guy now that's gonna that I don't think is going to accept.
Yeah,
198 per game. Period.
Yeah, I think in honor of Brad Lawing, they'll only allow 7 yards per game this year rushing.
Yeah.
So I agree with that as well. All right, JC. Now I'm going to ask this question, and the large majority of people, probably 99 out of 100, are going to go, well, that's a ridiculous question, of course. But think about it, because we've seen it a lot around here over the years. When you're expected to be blank, sometimes it doesn't always work out that way. So I'll ask it to you and see if this is 100% agree or if you have to think about it. Juice Wells will lead the Gamecocks in receiving yardage. Agree or disagree?
Agreed.
Agreed.
But it'll be close.
That's what I'm with you there.
Are we talking yardage or touchdowns? Touchdowns, maybe not.
Yardage.
Yards per catch?
No.
Probably not. But
yardage.
Well, yards per catch, I'd probably say Amarian Brown or Nick Harbor.
So Nick Harbor's going to have like 9 catches this year for 6 touchdowns, 75 yards or more.
9 catches for 399 yards. 6 touchdowns.
I'd love to get Nick Harbor and 2004 version of Troy Williamson in a 100-yard dash and see how it all works out. That would be something to see.
You picked up on the 99 yards thing. You heard Dave Neal's voice in your head when I said that, didn't you?
99. A young Dave Neal.
99 yards.
20 years ago. It was 20 years ago.
But yeah, it's he's I think that's I think Juice, I mean, if healthy, obviously. But
Okay.
I think Juice is going to be back and be fine. I mean,
Yeah.
last year, despite being grossly misused in half the games, he's still 968 receiving yards. It's nothing to shake a stick at, especially with the games they had where they just didn't score or anything. I mean, he's an elite player.
If he would have been targeted in the Georgia game, he would have had over 1,000. Just targeted. A target would be nice, against the best team in the.
Put him in late and let him catch the touchdown from Doty that saved the.
Just hey,
and he
who's our best player?
Blew up against Arkansas. Was clearly the best player on the field
The week before,
or the best player on Carolina's offense that day.
I'll never forget. I think talking to y'all afterwards, I remember thinking to myself, okay, so we just played the best team in the country. South Carolina just played the best team in the country, and they chose to not throw the football to their best player. Well, all right, that makes sense. All right.
I have an evil plan.
Moving back to Mad Dog. Mad Dog, DeCarrion Joyner will rush for over 700 yards this regular season. That would be an average of 58 yards per game.
700.
Marshawn led the team last year. Again, as JC pointed out earlier, totally different situations here. You got a different OC involved, but Marshawn didn't even eclipse the 600-yard mark. He also, though, when he got into the groove last year, he got banged up. So
yeah, that's true. It's like, he was out when he was hurt, after he started rolling. Let's see. 700 yards for DeCarrion Joyner on the ground. No.
Ooh.
No, I think you got I think he'll start at a clip that's going to trend him that way. But I think by the end of the year, we're going to see more of a committee approach with some of the younger and new talent coming along. And I think that's what's going to keep him from doing that. Not that I'm saying that he's going to have a bad year rushing, because I think he could easily go past 1,000 yards in total offensive production.
Well,
but
they will throw the football to him out of the backfield.
Yeah.
Do you think he'll be the leading rusher?
Yeah, I think he'll be the leading rusher.
Okay.
But I think you could possibly see 3 guys over 400 yards.
Oh, well, that would be something. I don't even know if I've ever seen that around here before. All right. So Phil says, JB, you're a moron. I disagree. Okay.
No, not moron. Just saying. I think there's so many unknowns back there.
Yeah.
That there's just going to be more of a committee approach. Although I think Carrion is the number one clear lead back right out of the gate.
It's not close right now. Yeah.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
I want to address it. Craig brings something up, and he's not the first person I've heard it from. I don't know if DeCarry Joyner can hold up. Where is this coming from? DeCarry Joyner has not been injured a lot in his career.
If you're
he's
talking
not injury
about
prone, he's 230 pounds.
Yeah, if it's just in reference to the fact that running backs get banged up, I
get
agree with that. I understand that. But like if it's because, he's played through some stuff people don't even realize. So I don't think there's a question for him personally.
Yeah, he's not injury prone, and I think people forget he's 230 because he doesn't look. When you remember him playing early in his career, he looked slender, and he's not anymore.
He is probably the biggest running back we've had since the second Mike Davis. I think he was around 230, 235. He might have been a shade under, so comparable. He's bigger than Marcus. No, he's not. He's actually theoretically right now, he weighs more than Kevin Harris did. He's got him beat by about 5 to 7 pounds. Kevin Harris actually played at 225. So, yeah, we're going all the way back to Andrew Pinnock. I don't know. All right, and I see Hey Cavalier in here asking the questions. Hey, we're gonna be doing this every Wednesday for a long time. Just relax. We got a game plan around here. Okay, we'll watch your show if you want to do that. Just chill out, man. All right, JC Rattler. That would be Spencer Rattler, for those wondering. Who the hell is Chet Tucker?
He's the new sideline reporter, Jamie. Didn't you know?
I just learned that, but
he's a backup punter for Holtz in the 90s.
Okay, that's who they're going with. Okay, Spencer Rattler will complete greater than 70% of his passes this year. As a point of reference, he completed 66.2 last year.
Disagree. I think he'll be higher this year, but
Hater.
like 68, 69.
More bulletin board material for Rattler.
Well, that's nothing against him. I think he's going to have a hell of a year. I think they're going to take more shots downfield, more lower percentage throws.
Phil, get Shane on the phone.
70's a lot.
Well, but you know what though? It's not as rare as it once was. It was pretty rare back in the day. It's really not that rare anymore.
I agree with what JC just said though. It was like, he could, if he were throwing passes behind the line of scrimmage and, 2 yards in front of the line of scrimmage, then yeah, he probably would hit 70 this year just because I feel like they're going to be passing the ball more, but more than likely going to be throwing it down the field more this year. So
70, by the way, 21 of 30.
70.
21 of 30. If he's 21 of 30 every game, he's at 70%. Just so you know.
Oh, you take that.
Yeah.
If he does, Carolina's going to have a pretty good year. So
yeah.
If he's throwing 50 passes a game, I don't know about all that. All right. Back to Mad Dog. We're going to volley this thing back to his side of the court. Marcellus Dial will lead the team in interceptions. Phil, not sure if you're aware of this or not, the statistician that you are, but he did lead the team last year with 3.
Yes, and he will not this year.
He will not.
No opportunity.
Okay. Wait, opportunity.
They're going to scheme up to throw it away from him, so somebody else will lead the team in interceptions because he will not have so many opportunities to intercept the ball.
So let me ask you this then, because when we last talked to Marcellus, he told me he was going to have 6. I think was the number. Will he equal his production from last year from a pick standpoint? He also, by the way, said he'd pick off 2 in the Georgia game alone.
Well, let's hope.
I
don't know. I just think that, this guy is not a completely unknown quantity. He's getting a lot of preseason hype. He's got NFL eyes on him, and the league knows that. So it's going to be a situation where if he gets 6. I hope he does.
Well, it's kind of like
6 would
Cam,
be incredible.
Smith.
But last year, yeah, that's because that's what I'm thinking. Like last year, is that everybody was expecting Cam Smith, to do that, and then next thing you know,
Cam Smith should have. He dropped 3 or 4 of them.
Last year. Yeah, that's true.
Well, I mean, J.C. Horn had very few interceptions in South Carolina.
Yep, very few. And Stephon had it wasn't as big of a number as you'd think either. I think he had more earlier in his career. You're right. It rarely happens. Well, they're rarely the leader when you
Well, when you have 2, that's what like Andre Goodman and Sheldon Brown had a lot of picks because
they sure did.
They both shut down their side of the field, and you look back. Jonathan Joseph that year, I think Fred Bennett was on the other side of him, and Co Simpson was at safety in Spurrier's first year. Captain Monerlin had a lot of picks. But because Captain was so good, Carlos Thomas, who was sort of average, and Stoney Woodson, who did get drafted, had their share. So it gets spread around. I want to see what happens interception-wise with the 2 safeties this year too, with DQ and Nick. I think being more comfortable back there.
I'm with you.
They're going to end up making some more things happen.
You're on it. I agree with you 100%. I think that those guys last year, as good as they were still learning to play football, to cover in space, to make tackles, learning where they needed to be and when they needed to be there and those type of things. Now they've learned how to read the eyes of quarterbacks. Mm-hmm. And when that happens, big thing. I mean, DQ Smith did it at the end of the season, so I'm with you. I think you're on the money with that. All right. Who's up next here? Schubert. You and Mike Morgan can't spell apparently. So y'all are a match made in heaven. All right, JC, South Carolina will score 4 or more special teams touchdowns this season.
Disagree.
Oh, yeah. So you're going under 4.
I'm going to go with 3.
3?
1. Just because the things that happened last year, like you get two punt blocks for touchdowns in the same game. That doesn't always happen. That doesn't happen every year. Kickoff returns for touchdowns unless you have a guy like Deebo Samuel who's just a freak at it. Mm-hmm. And nothing against Xavier Legette. I mean, I think he's a talented returner. That doesn't happen every year. But wait, no. All right, so let me back up though. Can I change my answer?
There are no rules.
Well, there are no rules on agree, disagree.
Yeah, punt return.
I'm going to go over because
we're living in San Francisco. There are no rules.
In my feeble brain, I'm sitting there thinking returns and blocks, and I'm not thinking about all the fakes they dial up on the kicks and stuff.
Okay,
so that's a lot. So 3 is not a big number, so I'm going to go over 3 because I mean, I don't think you can count on however many they had last year. But Pete Limbo has always got something up their sleeve, Clint says teams will be looking for stuff on special teams now. Yeah, I agree with you, Clint, but the beauty of it is Limbo's not like your normal special teams guy. He'll sit there and dissect what they do. And he's like Steve Spurrier, but for special teams. Mm-hmm. Shoot, well, when they shift here, that's a touchdown. Let's do that. South Carolina probably has a fake on every time they kick and punt the ball.
Absolutely.
It's all if they get the right
no question.
Yeah. So that kind of stuff gets hard to defend.
And they have a guy who like Kai. They have Kai. It's not like any normal punter who's like, the hell with it. I'm going to throw it here. No, it's like he knows what he's doing. I mean, he can see it. He can read it. It's amazing.
Don't tell the folks at the Ray Guy Award that they think there's 2 punters at Mississippi State better than him.
Yeah, one of them's from like New Zealand or something who's never even punted in college, but it is what it is.
Let's put the Kiwi. It's probably a New Zealand
that list when you and I were on the phone that day when I was like, what the hell is this? That was bogus. They had already released the whole Ray Guy list, and then they put that tweet out. It was very misworded. He is actually on the list. That's I matter of fact, Wes Mitchell texted me. He goes, he got me too, man. They screwed it up. It's a bogus tweet. I was like, yeah, well, I bet Ray Guy's happy about that. All right, so you agree?
I don't care. They still deserve to be called out. I take nothing back.
Yeah, no, not at all.
I regret nothing I said.
That tweet was ridiculous. You listed like 12 guys. You should have said added to the list. You didn't say that. You just said these are our finalists. What a bunch of morons.
Fire someone. Ray Guy, fire.
All right, final question. This is a bonus question for the both of you. Last year, and we'll start with Mad Dog. Last year, South Carolina averaged 100. I don't even want to read it. 118.8 yards per game rushing. That's atrocious. Will they average over? Or they will average 150 yards per game or more this year. Agree or disagree?
150.
I'm going to disagree.
I am too. I'm
You
like
are?
150. I could see them doing better than 118, but not
Way better.
150. No.
They last went over 150 a season. It wasn't long ago. It was 2020. They averaged 167 per game. That year with Kevin Harris.
Yeah, no, South Carolina is recruiting to the point, and before everybody starts talking about running back recruiting, I'm not necessarily talking about that. They're building the roster to the point where they're going to be able to line up and run it effectively in the trenches. They're just not there yet. I mean, in my opinion, and you got to do what you're good at. You know, I think again the previous guy, and I can't believe he's taken up so much of our time today. You know, he was almost too stubborn with the run game. You know, and when his offense, whatever, if you call it that, if they weren't able to run the ball, he's at least a little. He's just like throwing the towel until the end, where they told him, "Well, if you're not running it, you know, the common sense, the Steve Spurrier voice comes out. Well, shoot, if you can't run it, just throw it, But South Carolina's had this issue for a long time. You know, very rarely have we seen a Gamecock team through their history in the SEC lineup and run the football effectively every single time out. Even Marcus Lattimore had games where 15 carries, 32 yards, things like that. But I think they're getting there. I think they're building that in the trenches. You hear them talk about this freshman offensive line class, and you got a bunch of big guys, big-time guys coming in next. You know, you start bulking that up. You know, not all of them are going to be All-Americans, but you get to the point where you can compete, and obviously you got to sign talented backs as well. But I think Beamer, well, that's one thing I think that takes time, more time than 2 years, 3 years worth of recruiting, is building that ability to line up and run it and all that good stuff. So I'm going to say if they can get about 130, 135, Craig says 135, I'm with you there. That's enough per game. I think with the weapons they have in the pass game to keep defenses honest and make things happen.
Okay, I'll disagree with both of you. I think they'll find a way to do it.
Find a way.
I just don't need Shane calling me. If he can call both of you, I don't care what he does with y'all. He can chew your butt out all day, but I ain't gonna let him chew me out. So, all right, Shane, we'll give you 151 per game. Just remember, JB said that. By the way, South Carolina 11-1 under Shane Beamer when they rushed for over 100 yards per game. They were 6-0 last year. Just 100. That's it. Not 150. Just 100. So get to that 100-yard mark. Things seems to work out for Gamecock football. And that completes our first segment of Agree or Disagree. Let's see. Jay, I will, just for blanks and giggles here, I'll agree with JC that I think Juice leads the team in receiving yardage. I disagree with JC. I think Rattler will be over 70%. That's not asking a whole lot to do that. I agree that they'll score 4 more touchdowns. Last year, they allowed 198 yards per game rushing when they improved that by 30 or more. Phil said he agrees. I'm going to disagree. I think it'll be in the 170s somewhere. DeCarrion Joyner will rush for over 700 yards. I disagree with that as well. I think it'll be somewhere in the 6s. That's why I put it at 7. And Marcellus Dye will lead the team in interceptions. I disagree with Phil. I disagree as well. I'm going to go with DQ Smith. DQ Smith will have 3 or 4 somewhere in there. And South Carolina this year will finish 15-0, and they will win the national championship. And Spencer Rattler at the end of the year will still be considered an undrafted free agent, according to the pros. All right, there you go. All right, before we hit a timeout here, as I know we got to double these breaks, and Brad Crawford will come in. According to 24/7 Sports, there will be a couple of second-team All-Americans facing off in Charlotte in just a couple of weeks. They've got Drake May as a second-team All-American quarterback out of North Carolina, and the punter from South Carolina, Kai Kroger, on another All-American list. He is the second-team All-American punter, according to 247 Sports. If those of you who are frustrated because he is not on the first team, JC voted on this and actually put him on the second team, so you can blame him. Just kidding. For reference here,
who's the first team punter?
Tory Taylor from Iowa.
Oh, it would be in Iowa.
That's a sacker.
That's,
by the way, the first team all-purpose player, according to 24/7 Sports, all-purpose, first team, Travis Hunter from Colorado.
The mercenary.
Yeah.
He wouldn't be on any of my teams because he's a mercenary. I mean, he anyway.
Have we seen him against any quality competition as of yet in his career?
I don't know, but it was.
No, he's talented.
Yeah,
very big splash. Yeah.
But no, Travis Hunter would not be. The word team should not be affiliated with that guy.
How could anybody not pull for a guy named Kool-Aid McKinstry from Alabama? I mean, he is. I mean,
that's a whole name team for sure. Yeah,
my man. Yeah, dude. Kool-Aid.
I love hearing Nick Saban talk about him. Like it's just like his name's Fred or something. Well, yeah. Kool-Aid is
Kool-Aid had a good day.
Very studious young man. He
all right.
Does what he needs to do. Kool-Aid is a
quit asking
leader. Okay, all right. Kool-Aid.
Quit asking.
Right.
Quit asking.
Quit asking.
Drake's lemonade.
Oh yeah.
Stop asking. All right. We want to get in the line. Everybody ask a question. All right.
I really want to see Kool-Aid go up against Juice. We're all thirsty to see it. Talk about joke day. There you go.
I mean, the Iowa punter is a joke because they didn't have an offense. He punted 1,075 times.
Yeah, I mean, that's,
What else can he do? Can he throw a touchdown? No.
Volume shooter.
Is he a lefty? No.
Did he throw a touchdown?
Iowa football is melatonin, BRC says. Yes.
Yeah.
But they're ranked, everybody's like, Iowa's going to be really good this year. Again. How so? They kept their offensive coordinator.
They scored almost 10 points per game last year. That's good.
They throw the word McNamara, the name McNamara, around as if they didn't.
It's because everybody likes to be right, and Iowa shut out Kentucky. Iowa shut out Kentucky at the end of the year in the bowl, and so everybody's like, "Oh, well, that was a good Kentucky team." Well, that was the Kentucky team without Levis. It's the same one Carolina beat.
All right.
All
right. Speaking of that, we are out of time in hour number 1. Why did the Clydesdale give the pony a glass of water?
Does beer? I don't know.
Because he was a little horse.
Smog.
Brad Crawford up next. We'll be right back.
That's hilarious.
The preferred sign partner of Gamecock Athletics is Signorama Columbia, and they should be yours too. A full-service sign company that handles design, production, install, and service, Signorama Columbia has helped to bring to life the perfect vision for so many, all across South Carolina. Owned and operated by proud Gamecock alumni, they can handle all types of signage, including interior and exterior, vehicle graphics, and more. Go to Signorama.com and find the West Columbia location, or call them at 803-407-9284. Bring your brand to life with Signorama Columbia and go Gamecocks.
Charleston Fitness Equipment is keeping South Carolina in shape. Clients have come from all over the Palmetto State to find that one piece of equipment that they enjoy that keeps them looking and feeling good. Whether it's a home rower, treadmill, elliptical, free weights, a home gym, or something else, Charleston Fitness Equipment keeps the mirror smiling back at you. Get in shape like the Gamecocks do. Visit charlestonfitnessequipment.com. Gamecock owned and operated and proud partners of Inside the Gamecocks, the show.
If you're in the real estate market in the Low Country or even in the Midlands, please contact me, JB, with Coast to Coast Realty SC. You hear me and see me every day here on Inside the Gamecocks, and it would be an honor to earn your business. I've been around real estate my entire life, as it's somewhat of a family business. I work with an elite team of experts from loans to insurance to closing, and they make my clients and my life very easy. It really is elite. Coast to Coast Realty SC.com is where you can find our staff, and you can always reach out to me here as well. Go Gamecocks.
Coach O here, and when I'm not eating average jambalaya or celebrating endless summer in Destin, I like to eat pimento cheese straight out the bucket. And the only pimento cheese I like to eat is from Nana's Porch. It's award-winning. It'll melt in your mouth. It's good on a cracker. It's good in a bowl. It's good on a piece of bread. Also, don't forget Nana's Porch has a hell of a food truck. It's award-winning as well, and they're here for all of your catering needs. So get online, nanasporch.com. It's good. Coach O signing off. Endless summer. Go Tiger.
Ladies and gentlemen, here it is.
Just as your State Farm agent combines good neighbor service with surprisingly great rates, you can combine your home, auto, life, or small business insurance with Tony Pope State Farm Insurance today. And guess what you'll get? That's right, even more good neighbor service with surprisingly great rates. In fact, Tony Pope State Farm is your go-to agent anywhere in South Carolina, North Carolina, or Georgia for the service you deserve at the price you want. So try combining your home, life, auto, and or small business insurance today. Tony Pope State Farm has been in business for more than 30 years and can handle anything you need in the tri-state area. Once again, Tony Pope State Farm will help you mix and match perfectly. Call 843-851-2222 or visit tonypope.com today. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Nana's Porch, nanasporch.com. At Nana's Porch, they cater weddings, parties, and all kinds of special events. Their meals are served buffet style. In seconds, they're encouraged. Plus, they can bring their mobile food unit to bring on-site and serve your guests as a unique alternative for your catering needs. Inquire about rentals as well. nanasporch.com. Find them on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. 336-259-7550.
If you're on Medicare currently or approaching eligibility, it's time to enroll in a Medicare plan that meets your needs. Palmetto Medicare is here to help you through the process. Palmetto Medicare's owner, Brian Spencer, and his team of experts are here to assist you. Learn about the benefits and enroll in a plan that will cover as many of your medical costs as possible. Some of the advantages of Medicare health plans may include variety of plan choices, increased benefits, lower premiums, and more. Give Palmetto Medicare a call to discuss your insurance and help get the exact coverage for your needs today.
Crowing in Charlotte here in a couple of weeks, guys.
Yeah, won't be long. Won't be long.
Won't be long. Final hour on a hump day, and it's not blow dryer day outside. It has been roasting for how long around here, but thank God you can actually walk out and not wet through your shirt anymore. Inside the Gamecocks, the show built by the Barndo Co. The BarndominiumCo.com. Build that dream home, man. They are something special. As low as $160 per square foot in, as JC says, North Kakalaki or South Kakalaki. That Carolinas is what they're commonly referred to, Tennessee or Georgia as well. The great Brad Crawford has been kind enough to give us some of his time as we get closer and closer to kickoff. Brad, we're theoretically, 10 days out from the start of college football? Do they still call that week 0, or are we calling it week 1? What are we doing?
August 26th is week 0. Yeah, we got one SEC team playing Vanderbilt against Hawaii at the spacious Vanderbilt Stadium, 28,000 this season.
Saw that.
Oh, man. What's it going to be when they're done with renovations? Do y'all know?
Empty.
28,000.
Phil.
18,512.
Easy. There's good people up there. They're always accommodating. They allow every opposing team to seat the majority of fans in the ballpark. What's more accommodating than that?
Man, they were tough to deal with during the Franklin era, though. I mean, because they were good, and they. I lived in Nashville at the time, and their ranks grew from about 19 to about 35. And I'll never forget, they got so big. I've told the story before. I picked them to go winless in Derek Mason's first year in the SEC, and people thought it was crazy because they had all these guys back off a 9-4 team. I was like, Derek Mason's going to gear that offense back and try to run it like Stanford, and you're not that. That's not the type of team Franklin recruited. You guys don't get. You don't understand football, and they don't. So they were all big and bad and played Ole Miss at the Titan Stadium, right? Because we have plenty of fans now. So all 35 of those people were there, and they're getting all liquored up. And I think Ole Miss beat them like 48-0. And in the middle of the game, some Vandy fan he gave up in the middle of the game on everything, on life, just in general. Got up and tossed his beer on the deck. Y'all suck! And his khakis and his golden black polo, and I don't think anybody ever saw that guy again. Or he started pulling for Ole Miss, but that was a lot of fun for me that year because that was 2014 and Carolina wasn't all that good, but very disappointing.
Vanderbilt, the first Vandy South Carolina game I went to was 06. I won't talk about that one, but the next I think 08 maybe was Lattimore's 246 he had and 24-21 game. That was the first game that I took my father-in-law to in Columbia. His first SEC atmosphere. He's like, man, this is pretty special.
I think you're off by 2 years.
Yeah.
2010. 08. Vandy beat them beat South Carolina in 07-08.
17-6 is the game. Is the first Vandy home game I went to where.
That was 07. That was okay. So the Marcus game you're thinking of was.
That was after the win in Chapel Hill.
09, man.
All right, so Navy. He went for a bunch against Navy. That for some reason Eric Hyman scheduled Navy that year.
Yeah,
I mean, who they scheduled Navy and at UCF during that time period. I'm like,
I think he scored on a screen pass too. That
I mean, he's probably the reason they survived Navy. But man, there were a lot of great wins. I think there with great games with Vandy through the years. And Carolina lost those 2 in a row, and then they struggled to beat them really in 09 and 2010, and 11 was close for a while. Then it's just been no matter how bad Carolina
let's hope it stays that way, because I do disagree with Brad's brilliance of picking the schedule. I think Vanderbilt will win more than one game in the SEC this year, Brad. That's just but
possibly, yeah.
In America, we are allowed to have differing opinions and not get upset over it. That's what they tell us, at least. Hey, real quick, Brad, why shouldn't you write with a broken pencil?
Because pens are available?
No,
because it's pointless.
Wow.
Brad,
if I had to guess one person that's full of dad jokes, it'd probably be Brad. I think Brad's probably pretty talented.
I got a bad joke for you. Yeah, I got
for years.
It's National Joke Day.
What kind of pants does a ghost wear? Boo jeans.
Jeans.
Dear Lord. All right.
Oh man.
All right, so Brad, who voted for punter for the who put this punter from Iowa over Kai Kroger on the All-American team? Is that an opinion you agree with?
I don't know, man. The CBS All-American team came out today, and Kai's not even first team on that. And I voted for him. I mean, what other punter has 3 career touchdown passes? I mean, come on.
He averages 46 yards a punt. I mean,
he has a perfect quarterback efficiency rating, man. I mean, come on.
Yeah, exactly. He's the most accurate quarterback in the country.
How many punters win game have had that much of an impact on their team winning games?
Right.
I mean, you can't tell me he wasn't not the reason, but he's a big reason South Carolina beat Clemson.
I mean, he's a guy who makes head coaches call timeouts when Gamecocks get in punt formation because you want to make sure you're not going to get screwed over by a fake. Yeah, he's definitely the best returning punter in college football.
Yeah, I agree with that. All right, Brad. People are you're used to this. People are all upset with you.
Sure.
Apparently you've.
Apparently we've lost JV.
Jamie froze up there.
Oh, there you go.
Am I back? I'm sorry.
You froze up. All right. Continue your question.
I guess
7-5 instead of a 10-2, right?
Well, that and I didn't see this, but apparently, did you pick North Carolina to beat the Gamecocks in Week 1? People are really upset by this.
I think UNC and Clemson are going to be a split type game, split series, and I think Gamecocks will be better in November than they will be in September. Now, much of my belief in that is based on what I've been told by a few folks down there. This coaching staff doesn't know who the starting 5 offensive line is right now. There's no set 5. I think there's some concern there. Obviously, losing Jalen Nichols it hurt, and the Gamecocks still need consistency. And you look at some of the other SEC teams. Gamecocks don't have the luxury of opening up against a Ball State or a Murray State or somebody. A Middle Tennessee, Alabama. How nice of it. Nick Saban's going to play all 3 quarterbacks in his season opener and get a good look at all of them. Meanwhile, the Gamecocks play a top 25 team in UNC. So. For me, there's some questions that still need to be solved. And, you look at the running back room, if there's no one to block for those 4 scholarship guys, then might be some issues. So, yeah, I think the UNC game's a toss-up right now. I do think the Clemson game at home in November sets up more favorably for the Gamecocks.
So what I just heard there, boys and girls, is he said he thinks it's a split for those that are hanging on every word. If he's got South Carolina losing against North Carolina, then that means he's got him beating Clemson. Yep. You could probably ask every Carolina fan on earth who said, all right, if you got to win one and lose one, they're all going to take the scenario you just rolled out. If that's okay. All right. You've got them at 7-5 overall, 4-4. Does that, they finished last year 8-4 in the regular season, Brad? Would a 7-5 record, 4-4 in the league, mean that they're actually a worse football team than what they were in 2022?
I don't think so. I mentioned a few weeks ago at SEC Media Days that despite the final record of this 2023 team, I think Shane Beamer is heading in the much positive direction for this program. I think the playoff expansion to 12 teams in 2024 and beyond is going to greatly benefit a program like South Carolina, where if you go 9-3 one year, guys, with a couple wins over top 10 opponents, which the Gamecocks play 4 or 5 a year, then you're probably going to make the playoff as one of those at-large teams. So I think with SEC expansion, playoff expansion, I think the Gamecocks are a sleeping giant of sorts, and Shane is recruiting at a level right now that is necessary to make that 12-team playoff.
Is there a ceiling to their win total this year in your mind with the schedule that they play?
I think super optimistic would be 9-3, and that would probably be losses to Georgia, on the road in Tennessee, and then maybe somewhere else, maybe at Missouri, home against Kentucky, Clemson, one of those. But I think at Tennessee and at Georgia, they're up against it a little bit because not only are both those teams more talented, but you got to go to Athens and Neyland. And, guys, those 2 spots have been kind of horrific for the Gamecocks in recent years, except for that, win where Izzy had 3 interceptions of Jake Fromm.
Oh, God, that day was unbelievable. DeCarrion Joyner also had a lot to do with that. Is there any benefit to, and it sucks they got to do it in 3 weeks, but is there any benefit to getting both of those teams in September or no?
I think so, especially Georgia, because Georgia, like I said, opens up against 2 essentially FCS programs. We know they're FBS, but I mean, it's going to be 2 glorified scrimmages for the Bulldogs. And really, this new look Georgia defense is going to have 6 new starters on it. They don't play an SEC team until week 3, which is South Carolina. You've got one of the better SEC quarterbacks coming in there. So Georgia's secondary is certainly elite on paper. but they're not going to face, anything downfield until week 3. So I think Kirby Smart is going to not show a ton the first 2 weeks of the season. He probably doesn't have to. Carson Beck, the new quarterback, is going to find a rhythm against, 2 pretty bad defenses. So we're not going to know who Georgia is, until the Gamecocks come in there in week 3.
How about Tez Walker? I know that's a guy you're really high on, and I agreed with you. Any inside buzz about him being eligible if they appeal? I mean, I know the governor's written the NCAA, and everybody's outraged about it.
Yeah, Roy Cooper's a UNC grad, man. What you expect,
Yeah, so but everybody seems to be upset. So what do you think the outcome of that will be? I mean, from a Gamecock standpoint, I think that takes a lot away from North Carolina's offense. And so you take it. From a general humanity standpoint, I think it's a pile of dung that the NCAA did that to that kid.
Yeah.
But what are you hearing on that one?
Chimp Lindsey, UNC's new first-year offensive coordinator, he fully expects Tez Walker to suit up for them against the Gamecocks. We're like 14 or 15 days away now from kickoff. So, the NCAA, UNC would love to hear a decision, this week or next, whether that happens. But I think if Tez Walker does not play September 2nd, that's a bigger loss for UNC than, say, if Juice Wells is unavailable for South Carolina. Both these guys are going to be wide receiver 1 at their respective schools. But behind Tez Walker, UNC has literally no proven targets for Drake May. Whereas South Carolina feels pretty good about its wide receiver group. They've got a 5-star freshman who's going to make his debut too. You guys know who that is. So Tez Walker, for UNC to maybe hit that above win total this year, I think it's at 7.5 is UNC's win total. Drake May needs him to suit up against the Gamecocks.
If he can't, let's say the ruling comes down and they stay put. And I'm not don't misunderstand me here either, Brad. I'm not saying that Chip Lindsey is lying or anything like that. But if you are North Carolina, regardless of what you have or haven't heard, you want South Carolina to continue to prepare for Tez Walker.
Of course.
You're not going to say anything different. But let's say that he doesn't. Let's say they say, nah, we're going to stick to our guns here. Or let's say it's a Jalen Brooks type situation where they get 4 games into the year, and then they say, well, I tell you what, we woke up from our nap and you can come play. What is it? I mean, Drake May is outside of Caleb Williams right now, widely regarded as one of the top 2 or 3 quarterbacks in college football as it stands in August.
Yeah.
What does that do for him? You just mentioned the lack of depth behind Tez Walker. South Carolina seemingly has more options for a talented guy named Spencer Rattler. But what does it do for Drake May and the outlook of the type of season he's expected to have?
Yeah, he was also UNC's leading rusher last season with about 600 yards. So he's going to be moving around those first couple of weeks. And not only does UNC play South Carolina to open, they play App State a couple weeks later and then host Minnesota, a team that is one of the front runners in the Big Ten West. So that's 3 pretty tough non-conference games in September before UNC opens the ACC slate. And that's probably why you see the win total at 7.5, despite having Drake May rather than at 8.5 or 9. So this is a UNC team that I sort of had as a borderline top 25 team. I think if Tez Walker is not on this team, I do not think they're a top 25 program this fall. Wow. But Drake May is certainly one of the best quarterbacks the Gamecocks are going to face this fall.
Brad, that's an interesting statement. Brad Crawford with 24/7 Sports. You mentioned those first 3. By the way, their 4th game is at Pitt. It is a strange start to the year for North Carolina with the game in Charlotte, App State, whom they held on barely last year, 63-61. That was maybe the wildest game of the entire college football season, if anybody actually remembers the details of it. And then you mentioned PJ Fleck in Minnesota, and then they got to go to Pitt, who won 9 or 10 games last year themselves. So who knows? Okay.
And I was going to say too, JB, this is going to be one of the only teams defensively the Gamecocks play where they run a 3-3-5, and UNC's too deep is pretty much all juniors and seniors at D-line and linebacker. So I'm kind of interested in seeing, Dow Loggins' debut as OC. That's another kind of storyline within the game. And just, can this makeshift offensive line in the season opener open enough holes up and protect Spencer Rattler.
I'm probably going to steal a question from JC here. I'm sure it's on his radar, but you just brought up Dowell, whom, if you read Spencer Rattler's comments yesterday, it seems like it's night and day for him in preparing for this season versus last year preparing for the year under Coach Satt. But you've also mentioned Chip Lindsey, a guy he's been well traveled over the last few years as an offensive coordinator. Which offensive coordinator, which offense, maybe I should ask, are you more excited to see in week one? I mean, they're going to play each other. They're both first-year offensive coordinators at their respective programs, although Lindsey has called plays in college before. Which one is more intriguing at this point in time for you?
Yeah, I think if we get to see Tez Walker and Juice Wells play, I think both fan bases should be pretty excited. And I'll say this too, that I think both are also sort of cautiously optimistic as to what we're going to see. UNC's not running the air raid anymore. Phil Longo went to Wisconsin. As you mentioned, they brought in Chip Lindsey, who runs sort of a run-heavy Gus Malzahn type thing. And, with Drake May, considering how well he's a dual threat, this UNC offense is going to look a lot different. I don't think the Gamecocks offense is going to look vastly different from last season. Now, I say that with, the caveat, it's not going to be a Marcus Satterfield offense either. Spencer Rattler, all these guys, A.B. Brown have said throughout fall camp that they're more comfortable. I'm pretty encouraged by that. If I'm a South Carolina fan right now, I feel pretty good that just about every player who's been in front of the microphone during fall practice has says they're more comfortable out on the field. And, we didn't hear that at all last fall.
No, or pretty much throughout the entire year. What happened, Brad? Have you gone back and looked? I mean, Spencer Rattler finished the year, regardless of the couple of picks that were thrown in the Clemson game, even threw one in the Notre Dame game. But outside of that, Tennessee, Clemson, Notre Dame, with the lack of options to work with in the Notre Dame game as well, he was one of the best quarterbacks in college football. The same cannot be said, though, for Drake May. As much hype as he's getting, the last 4 games of the year were a struggle for him. 4 straight losses. Georgia Tech, North Carolina State, and Clemson were those 3. They were those final 2 were played at home. The Clemson game was in the ACC title game, and then Oregon in the Holiday Bowl. None of them he threw for over 300 yards. None of them he led the team in rushing, although collectively he did throughout the year. What happened in the last 4 games of last year to Drake May and Phil Longo in that offense? Why did it change?
I think the UNC team last year, they started around 8-1. They got up to number 15 or so, and they were really knocking on that playoff conversation door had they, finished strong and beaten Clemson. But those last 4 weeks, as you mentioned, he struggled a bit. The NC State game was sort of the smoking gun. I mean, he got outplayed by a third-team NC State quarterback who went into Kenan Stadium and won. Ask any NC State fan, they just knew they were going to lose that game. Then Dave Doran beat Smack Brown head-to-head. Sort of like Dylan Thompson that year. He went to Death Valley when we all knew Connor was going to start. He was a late scratch, and we saw what happened there. But, yeah, that was a tough-to-stomach loss. There's been speculation all offseason that, if UNC goes 6-6, 7-5 this year, does Mac Brown step away because he's losing Drake May as a future first-round pick? And Gene Chiswick's kind of the head coach in waiting there, so to speak. But I do think that UNC would go, bigger than Chiswick. That's a really good job that I think somebody can perform at. But yeah, last 4 games of the season for Drake May, not what he wanted to do. Played a little better against Oregon in that bowl loss. But look, he's one of the best quarterbacks nationally. I ranked him this week as the most valuable player on any team in college football. UNC's a 5-win team without Drake May this season.
Wow. Do you the Chiswick thing? Boy, that's interesting. I could see a Kevin Steele scenario unfolding there, like what happened at Auburn.
They make terrible hires, though.
Yeah, they do.
Think about this, guys. Come on.
Larry Fedora.
The one guy they hired that was an up-and-comer was Larry Fedora, and I was like, it's not going to work.
Right.
Well, I'm sorry. I digress. Butch Davis. That was a hell of a hire. And it all fell apart because John Blake's.
JC, Larry Fedora's Southern Miss team, the year after he left, they went 0-11.
Ellis Johnson inherited that bunch.
Right.
Yeah, you're looking at NASCAR, Carl Torbush, NASCAR, 2 years. John Bunting, that could have had Steve Spurrier had you fired Bunting a year earlier. Didn't do it.
That's true.
Butch collapsing in a cascading NCAA cloud that ended up leading to that academic scandal they had, by the way. And then Fedora comes in, Mr. Abs, wins a little bit. Then once he gets his players in there, things aren't going that well.
Mr. Abs.
Come to find out, he did sign 2 good running backs, and Michael Carter, not Smith. I said Smith yesterday. And Javonte Williams, and Mack inherits it and brings Phil Longo in, and they do pretty well. And now Mack's just kind of mediocre. I mean, and now they're going to get rid of him and hire Gene Chizik. I mean, why don't we hire Larry Coker? Where's Larry Coker? What's Larry Coker doing these days?
You've had Sam Howell, Drake May, and you're like 7 games over 500. I mean, those are all NFL quarterbacks.
I'm confused as to why Gene Chizik would be a guy that they would consider to be the next head coach who's already on staff over Sparky Woods. I'm just kidding, man. I'm just kidding, man. It's National Joke Day. All right, I just figured we had to.
That was a good one.
Because a lot of people don't realize Sparky Woods is on staff at North Carolina.
He is, and he took that L in the. He took the W in 19 and took an L in 2021.
I've actually lost a really good friend over the UNC South Carolina rivalry back in like 2006 or whenever it was. Yeah, whenever Lottie Boy or whoever it was batted down that ball at the goal line, they won in Keenan Stadium. Man, me and an old friend of mine like really got into it.
God, that was a moral victory for the Tar Heels.
Right. Yeah.
In 07. I was at that game. Carolina was up 21-0 in that game.
I was in the press box.
I was sitting in the UNC student section, but y'all know I wasn't wearing blue. So.
Nah.
I'll tell you what, that game was in October.
Yeah.
Nice weather. Beautiful setting.
Penny had
you could just smell the football in the air there. And then I had to go sit in the press box.
Chris Smelly had a really good first half.
He had a great first quarter. I know that. When they were up 21-0, I was like, "Oh my God, we're going to embarrass these guys."
Yeah, ball game. I got a text from Keith. It was with me at the game. He said, "Ball game," and it got really hairy.
You never want to hear that as a Gamecock fan.
That's when you first kind of realized T.J. Yates was not going to suck.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, he ended up lasted in the NFL.
The last 3 quarters of that game too, JC, were pretty representative of what the rest of the season was going to look like because Carolina didn't win a daggum game after that. Starting with what Brad already mentioned, the loss against Vanderbilt.
Yep. Lost a heartbreaker at Tennessee, which allowed them to win the division that year. It's crazy. And
that was the overtime.
Lost the Clemson. The Clemson game was even worse.
Heartbreaker.
Because Clemson was probably better than South Carolina that year. The Gamecocks came all the way back. Blake started hitting passes. Threw it to Deion LaCorn for a touchdown to get him up, which was the same pass Smelly threw to Deion LaCorn that put them up 21-3 at Chapel Hill up there. Yep. Same little slant in the back of the end zone. Place is going crazy, and Charlie Whitehurst is gone, but Cullen Hunter comes to 4th and whatever, right? 4th and 10. And I said all week on the radio, I said, what they have to avoid is Aaron Kelly versus Addison Williams. And on that 4th down, I remember I saw Ron Cooper almost in slow motion sending Addison Williams in the game, patting him on the butt. Keep going in, and I was like, oh, no, let's keep going. And there he is. Sure enough, audible, slant, first down. And then they took the field goal to win it, and Tommy smirked away. And that was Tommy's game in the Gamecocks.
Yeah, that's a
shoot. I'm telling stories.
Brad, I don't know how long we got with you, but just a couple more minutes. I know. Just a few days ago, the 2023 or the first AP Top 25 preseason poll came out.
Yeah.
Who do you have as being a little overrated in that poll?
I think Washington has a chance to finish the season unranked. Kalen DeBoer had a really good first season last year. I know Michael Penix is a Heisman candidate. Look, he's already experienced arm soreness in August. That's not a good thing heading into the season.
No.
They'll open up against Boise State. Either Boise or Tulane is going to be the G5's New Year's Six team. That's a tough opener. They go to Michigan State in week 3. then they play 4 or 5 ranked teams in the Pac-12. So Washington team every year, guys, there's 1 or 2 top 10 preseason teams that finished, low 20s to unranked. I think Washington might be that squad this year.
Brad, I don't know if you've looked this far ahead, but I happened to, we were talking to Mike Morgan yesterday, and I mentioned it while we were discussing with him because I think that it's week 5 that Fox has already decided Michigan at Nebraska is the big noon kickoff that week. Yeah. So I thought, well, let me go to week 5 and just check out what other Big Ten games are going on as to why they chose that game. I didn't even get that far. What I noticed, and I'm just saying this on the heels of your comment about Washington, what I noticed that week, and this is all going to change before then, but if the large majority of these teams are playing well, it won't change a ton. Number 1, Georgia, 2, Michigan, 4, Bama, 5, LSU, 6, Southern Cal, 7, Penn State, 9, Clemson, and 10, Washington are all on the road that week.
That'll be a fun weekend, huh?
8 top 10 teams as it stands today on the road, and they're not snoozers. Georgia's at Auburn. I just mentioned Michigan at Nebraska. Bama's at Mississippi State. LSU at Ole Miss. Southern Cal makes the trip to Colorado to see Dion and the boys. Penn State at Northwestern. Clemson is at Syracuse, and we've seen before things can get interesting up there as well. Washington, by the way, will be at Arizona.
Hell, they get interesting at Death Valley at Memorial Stadium too when they play Syracuse.
Well, that's true. Yeah,
Dino Babers. If Dino Babers were at a better school, he would be like 7-1 against Dabo.
Yeah,
but they like last year the refs helped them and they found a way to lose that one down in the Memorial Stadium. But I don't know.
That's week 5. By then, Clemson could be starting. Whatever. All right. Speaking of Clemson, Brad, I found your underrated teams to be very interesting. They're all pretty relatable to us.
Yeah.
The Tigers at 9.
Yep.
South Carolina, you've got them underrated. They're not even ranked. And you've got Alabama underrated at 4. And I'm just going to go on record and say Alabama's going to win the national championship. No, because you can't underrate Nick Saban. You just never know. When that happens, he likes to shove it in your face.
We don't ever get an opportunity to call Alabama underrated because they're never ranked 4th. I think this is the lowest been ranked since 2009. Yeah. And that season they won the national championship with Mark Ingram.
That's right.
Beat Tim Tebow in his final game in the Georgia Dome. Actually, that was quite a fun. Oh, by the way, Swamp Kings comes out into this week. It's fantastic. It's better than the Johnny Manziel documentary.
You saw it.
Yeah, and there's a lot of South Carolina featured too. First 2 episodes, they detailed 2005 win over the Gators, the 06 Jarvis Moss. We know what happened there. So after that 05 game, though, I'll go ahead and share this. Urban Meyer, he said he stood on the tarmac for about an hour at Gainesville Airport after losing 30-22 at Williams-Brice, and he questioned whether or not he could be the head coach at Florida. He said because Gator fans still wanted Spurrier back. So that was very interesting.
Wow.
Of course they did.
Well, it all worked out.
Yeah, that game was weird. South Carolina only attempted 17 passes in that game and only completed 7.
You're talking about the 05? You're talking about the 05?
Yeah. 05, Dacus Turman and Mike Davis the first. And I think Spurrier, I said this yesterday, Brad, I think when he was at Florida, what teams gave him trouble? The teams that just lined up and ran it up their butt.
Exactly.
And you think about some of his wins over Florida at Carolina, what did he do? The game in the swamp to win the East, ran it up their butt. Yep. And that 05 game, we're just going to run it all over them. I thought that was interesting. But, all those players during the Urban Meyer era, that's when I was covering national recruiting at Rivals and ESPN.
Oh, man, yeah.
So I remember all those kids, the Pounceys, the late Aaron Hernandez, Brandon Spikes. Brandon Spikes, I want to go back in time and really change a lot about the rankings when Brandon Spikes came out. My boss also moves Chris Culliver to receiver, but moved Spikes
had
to
Urban Meyer, had Meyer not signed Tebow in that star-studded 06 class, he probably wouldn't have won championships there. I don't think he would have.
I don't think he would have won
Probably
one.
Not.
No.
Because Cam Newton was not as – Cam took a while to get good. Because when Cam went to the junior college, and I still think he's been really better than John Brantley in that Florida offense. But when he went to the junior college, he really fine-tuned his passing skills and stuff. And so who knows what would have been. That was an interesting time in Florida history, though, and certainly an interesting time to kind of be sitting in your seat, Brad, but on the recruiting end with the Spurrier versus Florida dynamic, because a lot of those Gator fans really, they were kind of mixed, it was interesting. And had Carolina had Suckup not had the kick, or they not missed the extra point or whatever, whether that 06 win, the crap really would have hit the fan had the head ball coach gone to 2-0 against Urban Meyer.
And then in 2009, Tebow came to Williams-Brice. They won that Wounded Warrior game like 24-14.
That's right.
That
was number one. Team had won 25 straight games. So.
Well, and I remember Tebow after that game too said, "Man, hats off to these guys. This was what a night here at Williams-Brice." All right, you got Clemson underrated at 9. They're under. You think they're better than that?
I've got them underrated because I don't think you can put Florida State above Clemson in a preseason ranking right now. I mean, yeah, I don't think FSU's earned that yet. Is FSU a better team at the end of the year? Possibly. But right now in a preseason poll, I can't rank Mike Norvell over Dabo.
Well, we'll know in week 4.
Yeah.
Because Clemson hosts the Knowles, and my prediction is College Game Day will be there for that.
And FSU plays LSU in Orlando here in a couple of weeks too.
Yeah, we're gonna know about FSU real early. If they win both those games, Brad, they're gonna have at that point in time probably the best resume in college football and a case for number 1. I don't know if they'll be ranked there, but they'll have a case for it.
You're going to see Pete Warwick and Jameis and all of them all on Twitter barking about the Knowles. Yep.
What about when South Carolina starts 5-0? Guys, is anybody talking about that?
And Beamer gets an even bigger extension.
Yo, look, if they do though, that's the best. That's the best resume. Let's say that's the best resume.
Then Rattler will be getting first round buzz for sure.
Yeah, he'll be getting Heisman buzz if they're 5-0.
All the awards.
North Carolina
they might even remember Kai Kroger's on the team at that point.
Kai Kroger's 7%.
That means nobody's talking about Kai Kroger being left off anything because he hadn't played a lot. Yeah, then you talk going to Athens and Knoxville, winning back to back.
Right, well, I think
South Carolina won. 2011, they won in Athens and Knoxville.
Yep.
Yeah, that's the last time. That's the only time I can remember them winning.
That 2011 game, I was at that game too. What a time to be alive. That day, the 07 game when Brinkley picked it off at the end, and that 11 game, they should have won in 09. Yeah, they should have won in 09, and they couldn't pull it off. But then they did in 11, and that's the Ingram fake
13
punt.
was just missed opportunities and stupid defense. I mean, I call that defense that day the stupid defense. Because, I mean, they had Clowney dropping back. Mike Bobo just ate them alive that day. And then there was the play where Clowney had Aaron Murray. He spins out and throws, and Conley or one of the guys is wide open. Carolina went up and down the field of Georgia's defense all day.
Why do we always losses more than the wins,
Because there's more.
There's more material there, A lot of material there.
I remember a lot of big wins. We'll have you back one day when we've got 6 hours to go through the details of every game over the last 30 seasons at South Carolina.
I've been to every bowl game, I think, since like 2000, except that Miami Duck Commander Bowl or whatever.
I didn't get that one either.
No,
I was at that one. I was like, it was a Vandy fan level crowd there.
Well, of course it was. The last time they played there was 5 years prior in the Papa John's Bowl. Carolina played like crap, got beat by UConn, and they ran out of pizza in the first quarter. How do you run out of pizza?
Worst game I've ever been to. Worst game I've ever been to. Yeah.
It was a degree outside, literally like 1 degree. That's what at least it felt like. And Papa John's ran out of pizza. You're Papa John's. You can't run out in the first quarter, man. Oh, man. All right, Brad. We're getting close, man. We're getting close. So get your sleep.
Salute, Brad.
Has the baby been born yet?
So my wife, Savannah, is due September 2nd.
Oh,
which means I'm going to have to watch the opener on like a 13-inch TV in the hospital. So we're hoping that maybe the baby comes in August.
I'm telling you, schedule the inducement.
I know.
Pray for the best.
If you don't, I mean, I don't know what the rules are at the hospital there, but if I was you, I'd just wheel in like a 55-inch with yourself when y'all check in. Just bring it in and just be like, look, man, this is what I do. This is my career. I have to watch this or they're going to fire me on Monday.
Hopefully we'll be eating steak that night. Yeah, hopefully.
Right.
Well, all the best to your family over the next couple of weeks. I know this is always a very antsy time. And prayers with you as you are about to become a new father and she's about to become a new mother again.
3 girls. Yep.
3
Football
girls.
house, but we've got 3 girls. So
I got 2 girls. I couldn't imagine 3. God help you. And,
Thanks,
thanks, dude. See you soon.
Thanks, Brad.
There you go. Brad Crawford with 24/7 Sports. Probably much better interview than having to be questioned with ridiculous things from other parts of the state. We won't get into that. All right. It is 12:41. We will double up here on these breaks since we blew through them. So don't go anywhere. We still have plenty of fun. And I got another joke for you when we get back. We are painted garnet and black by a couple of painters. LetMePaintSomething.com. They also right now need to hire a painter urgently. So if you or someone you know needs employment, if you got a bum sleeping in your basement, otherwise known as like your 24-year-old son, he won't leave or something like that, put him to work. LetMePaintSomething.com. If you live in South Carolina or Georgia, they'll train you how to do it. They're going to pay you well. And Tristan Still and those guys are Gamecocks through and through, true and through, whatever. And you don't have to be one to be employed by them at all. You just have to have arms that work and understand what paint looks like, and they'll handle the rest from there. LetMePaintSomething.com. Hang tight. We'll be right back.
Golfers and wannabe golfers, former Gamecock golfer Meredith Taylor is now a full-time golf instructor in the Midlands of South Carolina. In-person golf lessons are held at the Country Club of Lexington. Half-hour, hour, on course 9 or 18 holes. And if you're outside of South Carolina, Meredith conducts virtual lessons. Just send in your golf swing for analysis. Gift cards are available for in-person 1-hour lessons. Connect on Twitter @MayorTaylor and find her online at McKellarEnterprises.org. Her email is on the website. Schedule your next lesson today with Meredith Taylor, former Gamecock golfer. Electric Bikes of Charleston offers the most fun you'll ever have on 2 wheels. Magnum, Velotric, Aventon bikes, and more. And they sell to consumers all across the state and offer outstanding warranties and service after the sale. 5 levels of pedal assist plus a throttle help you handle the southern heat better, but still get great exercise. Bikes are available all ages and sizes. ElectricBikesCharleston.com or stop into their store in Mount Pleasant. Electric Bikes of Charleston, powering inside the Gamecocks, the show.
Bikes are Charleston! Electric Bikes of Charleston! Electric Bikes of Charleston! Electric Bikes of Charleston! Bikes of Charleston!
Hey everybody, this is Mo Copper from Carolina Football. The show is painted garnet black every day by a couple of painters. Go to LetMePaintSomething.com to check them out. Go Cox.
10% off for military repeat customers or mention the show. Interior, exterior painting, fencing, cabinet staining, concrete painting, popcorn ceiling removal, and more. 803-522-6832. LetMePaintSomething.com.
If you're in the upstate of South Carolina and are in need of residential real estate services, Cindy Bass Searfoss of Caldwell Banker Kane is for you. Ask her about the village at Creekside, all of her listings. In my hometown of Spartanburg, South Carolina, right there on Daniel Morgan Avenue, married to a lifelong Gamecock fan. And many of our listeners have already bought homes from her and been 100% satisfied with the detail and care she uses. Cindy Searfoss, 864-414-5271, Caldwell Banker Kane in the upstate for your real estate needs.
Building your dream home is often just that, a dream, and sometimes a nightmare. But at the Barndo Company, they commit to quality and build without sacrifice. Customization, open floor plans, limitless flooring options, maintenance-free and easy installation perks, and affordability are just a few reasons why they've been named one of the best builders in the U.S. Believe in your dreams. Visit thebarndominiumco.com. That's thebarndominiumco.com. The Barndo Company. Gamecock owned, Gamecock operated. The preferred sign partner of Gamecock Athletics is Signorama Columbia, and they should be yours too. A full-service sign company that handles design, production, install, and service, Signorama Columbia has helped to bring to life the perfect vision for so many all across South Carolina. Owned and operated by proud Gamecock alumni, they can handle all types of signage, including interior and exterior, vehicle graphics, and more. Go to Signorama.com and find the West Columbia location, or call them at 803-407-9284. Bring your brand to life with Signorama Columbia, and go Gamecocks! Back 1240. What is that? 1247. Final segment of the Hump Day. Mad Dog Mullinax, JC Schubert, who's near the nut. That would be the salty nut in 5 points, guys, if you're wondering what that means. And myself, JB. A couple of quick little nuggets here. From the University of South Carolina, another jersey is being retired. This one is Tiffany Mitchell, former 3-time All-American and 2-time SEC Player of the Year for Dawn Staley's Gamecocks. That pregame ceremony will take place Sunday, November the 12th. For the Gamecocks, welcome the Maryland Terrapins to Colonial Life Arena. That is a really neat honor for her. I know instantly people are going to jump to, well, why isn't Asia's retired yet? And this, that, and the other. A couple of things to pass along from the university here. Here are the factors for retiring a jersey: postseason, national, and conference recognitions, school record holders, impact on team accomplishments, and either graduating from Carolina or leaving the school in good academic standing. Most importantly, though, there is a 5-year waiting period, which begins at the conclusion of the student athlete's final season of collegiate competition. So that should kind of help you understand where we all know that, Wilson and Leah Boston on the women's side are certainly at some point in time going to have their numbers hung up there in JC. That probably gives a little bit of clarification to names like Sindarius Thornwell, which you brought up, I think, yesterday on the program.
Oh, yeah.
As well. So I want to make sure we passed that along.
That's fine. I'm not so sure that number shouldn't be 10 years or so. Just to kind of let things play out. So, hey, does anybody really care why Emily Adams, the Greenville, since when is the Greenville News beat reporter relevant anymore? And nothing against her and the work she does. I'm talking about the job in general. This poor lady had to write an article about it. She has to go defend it. Why? Who cares?
I don't understand. Who cares?
Because
it's her
killed
opinion
on Twitter.
So what?
Yeah, I could really care less about what the Greenville News beat reporter says about anything.
And I don't mean that disrespectfully to her.
No, it's just the nature of those outlets these days. I mean, they used to be important. They're not, So,
I mean,
I don't know
how many. I mean, just because she's a reporter, she doesn't. Being a reporter doesn't mean you're a fan. And I think that line has been blurred over the years. There are programs like ours, admittedly, where we all are fans. Now, I try to be as honest as I can be about it. Well, not try to be. I am honest. And there are some that just want to be fans. They want to be mad at everybody because, they have a show or something, but they're coming from a fan's angle. That's fine. It's great. Whatever.
But that's where it's blurred the line with fans, and they feel like all reporters should also be fans. And there's been plenty of years where David Cloninger put him in the top 25, and others did. There's been plenty of years where a lot of people have that I truly respect. So what?
Yeah, and here's the thing too. It's like it's sports. It's not that serious. I mean, it's not life or death, and I just don't. I don't know why it apparently caused some controversy. I don't know why that causes a bunch of controversy. I mean, you could sit there and ask anybody why they didn't put the Gamecocks in their top 25. It really doesn't matter. And I think the days of newspapers driving the narrative around programs is over. It's been over. Ben Portnoy's leaving. Did anybody notice that? A couple of years ago when Joe Person left, it was like market-wide news.
Yeah.
Barely even mentioned. So and I think, too, fan, not a fan, emotional, not emotional, whatever, as long as you're fair.
That's all that matters.
I think that's all that matters. I think just being fair is what like in your mind. All right, so your opinion may be completely wrong. But are you being fair in your thought?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that most are, 99% are. But I was just wondering about that. 2026 rankings are out. Speaking of things that don't matter, the 2026 rankings from 24/7 Sports are out.
God, I hope I'm alive in 2026.
Look, man, and look, they look good for the Gamecocks for a change. I'll just go through real quick. The next great one from South Point, great defensive back, Jazavian Currents, number 33 in the country, tops in the state, number 4 corner nationally. That he could go up or down, we all know that. But he's a 6'2" kid. They love him. They think he's really good. Torian Gray's all over him. He's already 6'3", 194 and plays corner. So you kind of worry about him getting a little too big. But while I'm here in this state, I may go see him because he's an intriguing prospect. The Gamecocks have offered Pierre Dean, offensive tackle from West Forsyth and Clemens. He's 46th. Gamecock quarterback commit Landon Duckworth, 50th in the country, the number 4 quarterback in this class.
You say things that don't, and I agree with you. I could care less about the 26 rankings, but just out of curiosity, at what point in time is Landon Duckworth, being out of Jackson, Alabama, not going to feel the heat to stay home and play quarterback at Alabama or Auburn? I mean, it's coming.
I'm just hearing. Wait a minute. Hold on. I'm hearing it in the distance. War Eagle fly down the field. Never. Okay, there it goes. Dunker. Never. Hey, War Eagle. Da, 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 da. It gets louder and louder and louder. I mean, and he's a great. Here's the problem too. He's a great fit for what Hugh Freeze does on offense.
Yeah.
I don't know what Nick Saban's going to be doing on offense in 2026. My guess is that may be his last year because the Tide opens at West Virginia that year. Yeah.
Maybe
that's his big homecoming, right?
Retire after that game.
I think after that year. I think
during the game, halftime speech.
He'll never admit it. I think that's one thing he's holding out for. He wants to go back and coach at Mountaineer Field in his last year.
Why didn't he? If that's what he's holding out for, just call West Virginia and tell them, hey, I'd like to come coach West Virginia my last couple of years, and they'll fire Neil Brown. Hey, you kidding me? All right, sure. Come on.
They'll take all that Big 12 money and lose
your job. Poor Neil.
Like Nick, I know guac is extra, Nick. But Samari Matthews is a guy out of Huff in North Carolina. The Gamecocks have offered. He's 65th. I'm sure there's some other offers I'm missing because, quite frankly, when I see that 26, my brain goes to sleep. I'm like,
hey, Carolina's got the number 1 class in the country for 2026 alongside Ohio State and Florida State. It's incredible.
All right, let me ask you this because he's in Charlotte, and I think it is. And I'm old. God, we were just talking about the 04 season. Remember Georgia? Remember they had it is freak. I'm going to barf. Thomas Davis has a child that is going to be a senior in 2026 named Thomas Davis Jr. Hard-hitting guy just like his dad. Man, it seems like Thomas Davis played for Georgia and for the Panthers like yesterday. Like he was on that 04 team. He was one of those guys on Georgia's team that I was personally scared of. because he would knock you into next week. And he's got a child that's the number.
Well, that shouldn't make you feel that bad. I mean, we've had plenty of guys that should make you feel older than that, or as old as that. I mean,
well, Jasper Brinkley having a kid in this class was.
I was about to say,
but I kind of knew Jasper had offspring when he was at Carolina, though. So I guess I was more prepared for that than. I mean, I'm more prepared for the Carolina guys than the.
I was always a fan of Gerald Dixon's son, Gerald Dixon, and Gerald Dixon.
Yeah. Like a George Foreman.
I'll never forget when they committed to Carolina. My mom was like, I think they listed the same guy twice, or I can't remember what the conversation was. She said, they get the same guy twice on here. I said, no, they're both Gerald Dixon. She was like, what? Yep.
different mom.
Gerald Dixon and Gerald Dixon Jr. Still Gerald Dixon.
Dad, there were 3 Gerald Dixons that played.
I'll tell you what, the next group we're going to be looking for here. We need a new set of Lindsay twins. We need to South Carolina, the University of South Carolina needs to fight to keep. They need to bring 5 points back under their umbrella. Make 5 points for the students again. There's nobody better to do that than the Lindsay twins' offspring. So Jordy and Dusty, if you're listening, I hadn't seen you in years. You were always good to me. Regardless of that guy that you back killed that one night, but I think he's fine now. But back then he had a rough moment. Send your kids to Carolina and take back 5 points for all the rest.
Dude, those boys were a couple Cowboys. I mean, they you know what though? They were good players. They were really good players. I mean, at the end of the day, had Dusty not gotten hurt, right?
They played their rear ends off.
Yeah, he took over. He beat Ricardo Hurley out in 05.
Yeah,
we just talked about that Florida win. Dustin he's the one that tipped the pass that Chris Tucker intercepted, and Hurley all year was lost. I mean, I don't think Carolina beats Florida if it were for the Lindsay twins that year. Hey, Spurrier was like, hey, you'd have told me at the beginning of the year the Lindsay twins have been starting. I'd have been like, no way. Shoot, no way. And then Jordan was a really serviceable D-end. And then Dustin, see, what sucked about Dusty was he got hurt, and then he was never the same. And I think he came back and tried to get hurt again. And Carolina had problems at middle linebacker after not the next year because Jasper was there, but then I think in 07, Dusty was on the team, and then Jasper went down against LSU. And they could have used Lindsay, but he just was never the same. But I thought he was really good.
Yeah, Jordy played more of an end.
Yeah, Jordy was 41, and then Dustin was the other one. So yeah, I have I'll just say I have a friend whose friend dated one of the Lindsay twins.
Oh,
very interesting bunch.
Yeah. We're not going to out them here. But
I love those guys, man.
Tell you something. If you were in their corner, all was good. You were good, man. Didn't matter what happened.
Didn't want to piss them off. Stay on their good side, man.
Back then, it was truly better to be pissed off or pissed on than pissed off.
Yeah,
there's no doubt about that. All right, we are all but out of it.
JC Morgan tomorrow live. Download the Chief app. We have our annual meeting with Phil Steele tomorrow.
9:45 a.m.
9:45, and then we'll have the show after that right here. Download the Chief app. Tell your friends about the Chief app. Shout out to Meredith for putting that on Twitter today with a screenshot of an animated screenshot of the Chief app.
I think it's called a GIF, but
I don't know how to do it.
A GIF. Yeah, I don't know. Thank you, Meredith. Yeah, that's everybody's homework assignment. You got to keep spreading the news. Well, put it this way. We're all going to be having some fun here for long. We're not having fun now,
And Clint, just show up to I got your ticket for the tailgate. Don't worry about it. Just show up with your buddy and we'll take care of it.
We got you.
Yeah, this, that, and the other. BRC. Steven's son's name is Memphis, and he's got a chance to be pretty good. So We'll get old Steve-O on here and let him show us some huddle tape of young Memphis here before long. All right, before we go, I have to read 2 quick things. Why did the mushroom go to the party?
Because he was a fun guy.
Yes, you did it. Bill, Mad Dog, Mad Dog sinks it at the end of the round. And then also the greatest follow on Twitter, Shooter McGavin. I think this is one of it's the funniest Twitter account out there. He says, this is an undeserved good guy rap. Scotty Smalls. Anybody remember Scotty Smalls from The Sandlot?
Undeserved good guy
He
rap.
said, this is an undeserved good guy rap. Scotty Smalls.
No.
Here's why he's undeserving of being a good guy, according to Shooter McGavin. He had no idea who Babe Ruth was. He had no idea what a s'more was. He stole his stepdad's baseball that was signed by Babe Ruth for a pickup game. He was a liability in left field with a noodle arm. And he was the smartest kid in the group, but he didn't think to knock on Mr. Myrtle's door after losing the baseball.
Jesus.
Shooter McGavin strikes again. Meet me on the 9th green at 9. Oh, my man, Shooter. All right. Thanks to Brad Crawford. JC mentioned 9:45 tomorrow on the Chief app. You can watch JC and Morgan. They'll be joined by Phil Steele. We will immediately follow at 11 o'clock. And we'll be joined by Perry Orth, Chris Phillips, and a full hour of Power Hour with Mike Morgan. It's a full day of guests. And you're going to get 3 hours and 15 minutes of live programming. Tell your friends. We're powered by the great, wonderful family who own electric bikes of Charleston, the Wilkins family. If you want to get out and cruise around, there is no bike in the world that is better than those that they offer there. That's for dang sure. ElectricBikesCharleston.com. They're also the owners of Charleston Fitness Equipment. Stay in shape this football season because we all know you'll be drinking and eating too much. Thanks to Brad, JC, and Phil. I'm JB. See you tomorrow right here on Inside the Gamecocks, the show from the Signorama Studios and built by the Barn Dope Co.